we go. Aaron, I do appreciate you coming on, sir. And for those who are viewing this, Aaron is here, but we're just doing a little bit of a different style here, but he is here. Aaron, I appreciate you coming on, sir.
I'm here and I'm excited and I appreciate you having me on the show.
I'm excited that you're excited, man. And it is a pleasure to have you on here. Truly.
Yeah, you've had a bunch of really cool people on there.
I do appreciate it, Aaron, and I'm just adding to the list right now. So I really appreciate you coming on, man.
Yes, indeed.
I wanted to start here though. When did you realize you were able to sing in like that falsetto range?
Yeah, I was probably maybe like 21. I was living in Indiana, going to school at Indiana University in Bloomington. I had just sort of started to make soul music, and was messing around, working with Durand Jones, at the time. We were just starting this recording project, that didn't even have a name. It went on to be Durand Jones and the Indications, but I wrote this song called Isn't Any Wonder, and really simple tune, and I was like singing it in my chest voice. And it didn't like sound right. It didn't really feel authentic to me, but I was like, I know Durand could do a great job with it. So I brought it to Blake, our guitar player, and we recut the instrumental. And I just laid down a scratch vocal for Durand to replace, but I was laying back on the couch, and so I guess maybe just feeling very relaxed, like I was just singing in my head voice. And that was really like the first time I tried to sing falsetto. And those are the vocals that went on our song Is It Any Wonder. We left them because we liked them so much, and that was kind of the start of my falsetto singing.
Wow, man. And when did the interest in percussion come along? Was that before singing or right after singing or kind of at the same time?
That was much earlier. I've been playing the drums since I was 9 years old. So it's funny to me now when, like, I don't know, I think a lot of people sort of view me as a singer first, but I still define myself as like a drummer who sings coincidentally.
Drummer at heart.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, it's good. Drumming's amazing. Love it.
Yeah. I heard this song from Jewel when I was that age. Remember Jewel? I don't know if you ever. Jewel was like an Alaskan like pop singer. She had a couple hits in like the 90s.
Okay.
And she had one called Standing Still. And the bridge or the pre-chorus had just this very like drum centric arrangement. And for some reason I was like, that just really like lit me up, and so I hope I like get to meet Jewel one day to like tell her that's sort of like on my list of things I'd love to be able to do.
So that's, I mean, Jewel, that's at the top tier right now. That's who you want to get in touch with.
Jewel, I also I have this goal for the year to like hold a baby goat. I really love to do that. And those are sort of equal footing for me in terms of importance, I think.
I mean, those aren't bad goals.
I feel like a goat feels attainable. Jewel, yeah. I just don't know, I mean, it's amazing with social media now, actually. You can just sort of like just hit people up, you can just sort of like, I realized a few years ago when I was getting a lot of DMs from people, just really sweet messages from people just telling me that my music meant a lot to them, and talking about where they were in their life when they found my music or vice versa. And I don't know, I was just like, oh wait, I can also do that. Like, I'm also a massive like music fan, so I just started like DMing, just being a fan, and like DMing people to be like, yo, I just, not with any other thing in mind, just to let people know that like I connected with their work and I like appreciate it.
Yeah, so the only thing you gotta find now is Baby Goat's Instagram, and then you're set, man. And then you're on track at that point.
I think and I'm sure there's a Baby Goats page out there. If there are any listeners who are up on any Instagram pages dedicated to Baby Goats, let me know. Or if you know Jewel.
Either way, please.
Either way.
Let them know. Were your parents playing a lot of music around the house when you were a kid?
Yeah, they were. I mean, not performing, but they were.
Mm.
Yeah, records were on all the time. My mom really loves Carole King, so Tapestry was like constant for me, and I still honestly look to it a lot in terms of like how to write a song. Like the songcraft on that record is just so solid. Um, and I love how understated the arrangements are, and you can really just appreciate like, I don't know, yeah, the songcraft. It's amazing. Also like she'd put on like Michael Jackson a lot. And then my dad was really into like the dad rock classics, the Three Dog Night and Doobie Brothers, the Eagles, Beach Boys, Beatles, Jackson Brown, like that kind of stuff. And my dad especially would not just like put on music, but would like talk about it with me. Specifically like what he liked about these songs, or certain parts of the arrangement that stick out. Like he'd pause it and be like, listen to how the intro kind of like just blends into like the background vocals or something on some Brian Wilson production. And then we'd start the song over and I'd listen for it. And I do think, even though I didn't grow up with people around me like who knew how to play instruments or sing or anything, I think that kind of listening totally shaped me and kind of like helped me develop a mind for making records myself when the time came to it.
Sure. Those things are crucial at a young age. Like when you start to develop a ear for music, it's definitely like those things that you really tap into at that time. Really, those are your roots. This is what you stem from.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think to be able to articulate what it is about a song that is getting you excited or speaks to you or whatever, like that's a really powerful tool, especially when you're making art collaboratively. It's such a crazy thing to like try to make records with other people, because you're just like, you're trying to like build a house together, but you can't show anybody else the exact blueprint. You have to just like describe what the house is supposed to look like. So like the more specificity you can give, I think the better chance you're going to wind up with like the house you want, and not like a mess where the bathroom is in the kitchen.
I personally like a bathroom and a kitchen. I think that's a great aesthetically pleasing kind of layout for a house, Aaron. I don't know what your problem is with that, man. I just
I looked at an apartment when I first moved to Brooklyn where the shower was just like a curtain. I've never seen anything like it. It was like just a curtain that was off the kitchen like that. Yeah, real weird.
a nice bitchin, as they call it.
Pitching, yes, that's right. That's a technical term.
Sure. There's technical terms for everything. That's just that one. It's just called a bitchin,
Called
a
a bitchin'.
bathroom kitchen.
That's good jargon right there.
It's really all about efficiency. If you at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, I got to go to the bathroom. I also got to make my eggs in the morning. It's just killing two birds, really.
I appreciate the tea kettle for its whistle, because I feel like I do, like if I put on tea, I'm gonna go and do other stuff.
Sure.
The watch pot never boils. So but I also like, I definitely in my day have scorched a pot or two by putting on water and then like going to do something else and forgetting about it. So shouts to the tea kettle.
Yeah, but do you start over after that, or are you like, oh, I gotta make a new thing, or you're just like, all right, it's not happening today?
If I like on times when I've like scorched a pot.
Yes, sir.
I don't know. It's probably happened like twice. I can't really remember. I guess I just used another pot, I wouldn't reuse that one because I don't think it's good, when the pot is just sort of, all the water has been boiled off and it's just like cooking itself. I think it's probably not healthy.
Sure.
But I think in life there's sometimes you scorch the pot and it's just a matter of, are you going to grab another pot, or are you going to you can give up.
It's true. Aaron, you're really good at the analogies, man. I gotta tell you, you're on point with this. The house one, your hatred towards the bitchins, and the teapot one. It's pretty good. I like
Thank
it.
you. I'm a songwriter, you know, I connect images with symbolism.
Sure.
Yeah.
Big part of it. But you're originally from Baltimore, correct?
That's right, Baltimore, Maryland. Yeah.
Very nice. What was the music scene like for you when you were out there as a kid, kind of getting into music?
Yeah. Pretty pretty slim and disjointed, you know, for me, just where I grew up. I didn't know a lot of musicians. I like towards the end of high school, I did meet a couple like kids who were older than me who had a band already, and then I wound up becoming their drummer. But a lot of the music I was making at that age, I don't know, in high school was like hip hop. I was making instrumentals, not rapping, but like I mean, the first beat I ever made actually was on like Windows Movie Maker, like whatever the thing was, and those that like, because I didn't have any kind of DAW, you know, but I knew I could hear these, especially like at that time I was listening to a lot of jazz, and I could hear these like snippets that I knew could be like a loop. You know, I mean, I was listening to a lot of hip hop, and so yeah, I was just desperate to try to make stuff melodic. So like, you know, and any kind of melodic thing, which is hard when you're a drummer and you don't know other musicians. It can be kind of like isolating, I guess. You know, I just sit in my basement and would put on like Illmatic and Reasonable Doubt, and like Black Moon's Enter the Stage, and would just drum to them front to back. So that shaped my pocket a lot. But anyway, yeah, to answer your question, I didn't know a lot of musicians growing up. I also was making some like Baltimore club music, which I don't know if you're familiar, but it's sort of like, I would say it's spiritually connected to Chicago house. Or like a lot of people are familiar with like Jersey Club now, but Jersey Club, I don't just say this because I'm from Baltimore, but like is just an outgrowth of Baltimore club music. For listeners who
you're from where it is. That's what you're saying. You're calling it right now, Aaron.
Yeah, and for listeners who are unfamiliar with what Baltimore club music is, it's like if you've heard Shots by LMFAO. That's the, you know, the shot, like, so that kick pattern, that's the Baltimore club beat. That is the basis of it. So I don't think LMFAO are from the city, but they used that, you know, they sort of took that sound to a national level. Anyway, so I did a little bit of Baltimore club music, went with my friend who's like a DJ to like some clubs and stuff. But largely it wasn't until I got to Indiana that I was able to like meet people who shared my different musical interests and were down to like write songs together.
Mm-hmm. What drew you out there? Was school?
Yeah, I was studying audio engineering at Indiana University. It's part of the music school, but it's not like a performance major.
Very nice. I mean, like you already had the experience with the Windows program. I'm making beats on that. I mean, you were professional before you got there.
I really tried to sell it hard in the interview that I do know Windows Movie Maker, but just audio function. And I think they saw that and they respected that. And yeah.
I mean, that'll open up doors for you. That's
actually what I did in my I remember when I was applying for school, like, you know, I didn't have like, they wanted examples of stuff you'd like recorded, but I didn't have any like microphones, or I'd never really recorded stuff before. So I wound up submitting like a mashup I did of the Beach Boys' Don't Worry Baby and UGK International Players Anthem together. And I don't know, you know, I mean, just trying to bring the different influences. I guess when I reflect on it, it's like I have been trying for a lot of my life to sort of bring a lot of different influences together, because I I have all those things in me.
Yeah, the merging of two separate ends.
Yeah.
Sure. Was that where you initially met Durand and Blake? Was that where that
Yeah.
kind of you guys all accumulated?
Yeah. And so all four of the original Indications, we had our own band, and we were playing like rock and roll, kind of like Flat Duo, Jets, White Stripes, like kind of like, some people call it punk blues, but I think if you say punk blues, that literally is just describing rock and roll. So
That's a
yeah, we
good
were
point.
playing.
That's a good point, Aaron. I didn't really think about that, but yeah, that is
Yeah,
what it is.
we were rock and roll band. And then Blake met Durand when, as actually all four of the Indications were also audio students. So, our major was really small. It's like 15 kids per year. So, you get to know everybody really quickly. But part of the program was having to run sound for different student ensembles, and like stage productions and, opera, orchestra, stuff like that. So Blake was running sound for a student ensemble called the IU Soul Review, and that's where he met Durand. And at the time, like, Blake and I were already talking about, like, we had been making rock and roll, but we both loved like Jay Dilla, and we loved soul samples. And by that time we had both also heard like Daptone. I had heard like the Budos Band when I was in high school, but then when I got to college, I heard Charles Bradley. And I think similarly, Blake had heard Sharon Jones. And, there's something incredible about hearing that era of Daptone production and just being like, there's just no, like, it can't be new, but it's not old. It had a sort of post hip hop sensibility to it. Like, it was clearly like, it wasn't samples, but it was almost like they were making the source material for samples. So anyway, that got us real fired up. But we'd already been talking about it. And then when Blake heard Durand sing, he was like, yo, I'm starting to make music like this, with my bandmate. And we started just hanging out and putting in work in the studio. And that's how those first 8 songs came about.
So it was like super like right after you guys kind of met up that it was like, all right, let's start making music. It was pretty soon afterwards.
Absolutely. Like, the first time I got a call from Blake. He was like, yo, like, we had some studio access since we were like audio majors. And he's like, I'm going to mess around on some stuff with Durand, like, come meet me. And I ran down in my like pajamas, like, just ran to the studio. And that first day we wrote Given Up, which is on our first record, kind of a deep Southern soul type vibe. So yeah, I mean, the connection was like really instantaneous. And there are very few times in my life that I've felt that. And it's a musical connection unlike any other one I've had.
Very
And a
nice.
personal, I mean, to go through touring, all those years of van touring, and not fall apart, like, to not have the band, I think bands split up a lot during the van touring era because sleep deprivation is so brutal. And that style of touring is just like, it's a thresher, man, for like physically, spiritually, emotionally. It can be really, really challenging.
Sure, taxing.
Yeah. Did you ever tour? Are you a musician?
No. I mean, I play. I don't say I'm a musician. I play music. I feel like there's like a difference between the two.
I hear you.
But like, I've never, no. But I like talking to people and just like hearing these stories. Like, yeah, I could only imagine how difficult it could be at times.
Yeah, it's like this weird. I I I think about it like, I don't know. I think about it in all kinds of like kind of strange ways. But like, I feel like one of the ways it's easy to understand for people is like, sometimes you hear stories about people who are so far underwater that they wind up swimming in the wrong direction. And that's kind of how like the van touring is. If you don't have, especially if you don't have a booking agent, it's like, it's this horrible cyclical thing where you're like, how do I get a booking agent? And if you manage to get in touch with somebody who is further along in the industry, they're going to tell you, oh, you got to go play shows. That's what they want to see. They want to see touring history. They want to whatever. So it's like, then you just hit the road with no clear direction of what's going to happen. You're just like, I guess if I just keep playing my ass off every night and don't quit, then maybe something will happen. And I just think a lot of bands just like flame out or plateau at that point, because there's so much luck involved and there's so much randomness. And like, yeah, we were playing our asses off like really every night, man. I mean, I used to drum way harder than I do now. I was trying to like put a hole in the snare drum every week. But I don't know. Yeah, we got lucky. We worked really hard, but we also got lucky.
Yeah. And this is all around like 2012-ish that like the kind of the inception of this group started.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And the rock and roll band, before that, we had been playing since like 2009, I guess.
So I mean, right around the same kind of era there.
Yeah, we just became like, we took our entire band and we just became a backing band.
Very nice. It's good. It's a good way of doing it. You already know the guys.
Yeah, and you already have I think that's true. Like, we already knew how to put on a good show because like we had been doing it, and Durand was such an amazing front person that together it just like clicked, and then doors started opening.
And you guys were originally only supposed to play one show together.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, again, like this started as a recording project and was never supposed to be like, let's make this a career. And at the time we were all really obsessed with like obscure soul 45s. You're like, damn, this band put out 145, like, that there was a romance to it. So when we decided to sort of do this recording project, and we wound up coming towards the end where we had made these songs, a label was interested in putting it out, but we kind of felt like that was the finish line. We were like, let's celebrate it by playing one show, even though the record's not out. Like, we're gonna play one show and never play again, and like that'll be like the thing, and it'll be like, man, I saw that band, I was there or I wasn't, and it can just be this like folkloric moment. Now I don't really have an interest in obscurity. I'd like to like for people to know what I'm doing. But yeah, we played that first show, and again, it's like the rock and roll band was still active. We were still playing some shows under our own name, and then Durand had, he's so lovable, as like he had a lot of friends in around town and in the music school, because he was studying classical saxophone. And so it was like a confluence in that first show of like our fans and then Durand's people, and nobody had heard any of the music before. So I mean, that was such a fun night, because every little like change or arrangement flourish or hits or stops or breaks like were a surprise to the crowd. So they were just like bugging out the whole night, and still one of my favorite shows I've ever played in my life.
I bet. I mean, that kind of, you guys were really going for something there. It's like, all right, we're gonna do this one thing, the one and only.
Right.
I mean, that's I mean, this is really cool. It's just like, this is it. If you're here, you're here.
Yeah, it says, actually, like I still have the show poster, and it says one night only on it, because we were like, this is for real it.
Wow. What was your mindset after wrapping up the show? Did you really think like, all right, that's it, like we're going our separate ways?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because it just seemed like it was a recording project, and to be able to hold a record in your hands that like you made, as somebody who loves records, like that felt like that was success. To be like, dude, we made a vinyl record, like this thing that we collect and we love, and now we have our own version of it. Like that was so special. Like that was the reward in itself. So yeah, I realized like towards the end of my senior year that I didn't want to work in a recording studio, like recording bands. Cause I just, it's a grind. That's a grind in itself. Like, you got to record a lot of bands you don't care for, or like, rich dads on the weekend, just like recording bullshit. Like, um, and yeah, so I sort of was like, well, I think I'm going to go to grad school and for ethnomusicology. Cause, like I said, like, I love sharing my enthusiasm for music. I love, in the same way that my dad did for me, I love like showing people records and being like, no, dig this shit. Like, listen to how cool this is. So I figured, like, maybe I teach like history of music or something, find a university somewhere or whatever. So I thought about, well, actually I did take the GREs. I like studied for it. I had to remember what like the quadratic equation was, like all this stupid shit that you're like, why do I have to know this for the program that I was applying for? But I took it, and then I sort of freaked out again and was like, dude, no one's gonna hire me in this really specific field like ethnomusicology. I mean, I understand. I don't delude myself that like I know academia was like, even back then I understood like it's really rare and difficult to get a job. So then even in a smaller field like that, I was like, if I haven't done anything and I've just like read a bunch of books about it, but I haven't like actually done it, I was just like, this doesn't seem like a good idea. So the scores were good for 5 years, and I was like, I'll move to Brooklyn and get a job, and hopefully at like Daptone Records, but really at like any place like that's like a musical job, so I can have something on my resume when I apply for grad school. So that's what brought me to Brooklyn. And so I left Bloomington. Blake moved to Chicago. Durand moved back home to Hillaryville. And that was it for like a little while. A 45 came out of Smile, with Tuck and Roll on the back, which is the last song on our first record. And then maybe like a year after we played our first show, the Bishop, where we played that show, asked us to come back and reunite for show number 2 for like their anniversary of the venue. So we did, and we played that next show, and it was great. It was great to see everybody. And then we went back to our separate ways. And it wasn't until the record came out, the LP dropped, that it started to catch heat through the brick and mortars, like through the record stores. And a booking agent heard it in a record store and got in touch with us and was basically like, okay, you have this record that I'm hearing people talk about. You've played 2 shows in one venue in Bloomington, Indiana. Like, what are you doing? What do you want to be doing? And so he was the first one to be like, let me book you a couple shows in LA. And when we got in the LA area, and when we got out there, that to me was maybe the first time I became aware that it was like something was kind of like happening, because we had never played LA before, but the one actual venue show we played was sold out, I believe. And it was also not just sold out, but it was this really diverse mix of people. It was like a bunch of like record nerds, like record store nerds, and then kind of like snooty industry folks, and then like a ton of cholos, like who we became aware, like what we were doing, this down tempo style of soul music, like people describe it as Chicano soul. And so it connected with like the Chicano community, even though that's not what we were like going for. Anyway, that was probably the time that I felt like, oh, this music actually has a lot wider appeal than I kind of thought.
Yeah. What was the feeling amongst like everyone in the group when you guys were going out there? Like, oh shit, like we're doing this again. We're actually like moving outside of Indiana to do this for a minute in like LA. How was that like camaraderie between the band at that point?
Great. I mean, we were just excited to like that we were gonna travel, and get to see some other part of the country that we had never seen before. I'd never been out to LA prior to that. So yeah, I mean, I think we were all just like excited. But the shows we played, one of them was like a festival, like La Brea Tar Pit. So it was like Tar Fest. whatever. One of them was like a real venue show. One of them was Claremont McKenna College. So like a just random courtyard and, you know, in this private university or whatever. And then the first show, or the second show we played at that run was this nightclub called Mrs. Fish. That was like, it had a real like kind of slick Hollywood coked up vibe, but it literally, it was like, it was like, it's a nightclub and they just had us set up in the middle and like told us we had like 90 minutes to fill, which at the time we had 8 songs, you know? So we just extended all of them, you know, every song had like a jam out guitar solo section or keyboard or whatever. And then we like took a 15-minute break in the middle and then just like ran it back into the exact same set again, because we just didn't have the material. It didn't matter because nobody cared in there. Like that was not the time when I was like, oh, something is here. That was the time when I was like, oh, this feels like our college gigs where it's just like wallpaper, you know, it's a wallpaper gig. You're just background.
Sure. I like how you're like, you know what? Fuck it. Run it back. Let's do it again.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to run it back here. And that's just what it calls for sometimes. A 90-minute set at a private college. That's one of those times.
Absolutely.
That's just what has to happen sometimes. Going back to the original, like the last show only, and then you guys played the same venue again for like the second last show only, if you will. If you guys hadn't, I mean, if there was no success or buzz around this album that you guys put out, would you guys have inevitably played another show? Do you think that would be on the table? It's like, all right, let's do it a third time.
I think it would have been, I think it would have been almost like a yearly thing, you know, just an excuse to reunite with friends and have some reason, you know, something to do that could cover some of the travel costs, like that sort of thing. But not necessarily with a career in mind, you know. Again, it's just, we felt like making an LP was the goal. The goal wasn't like, let's make a career, let's get to a tour bus, let's, you know, tour the world. Not at that time.
Going back to LA at this point, you're playing these gigs, you're kind of cutting your teeth touring. And at what point does Dead Oceans come along and say, hey, we want to re-release this debut album? When does that come into play?
That's probably, we probably started talking about it in like 2016. When we started, you know, after the LA shows, we got another tour booked that was sort of included South by Southwest, which I don't, have you been to South by?
No, I have not. I do want to go. Is it good? Tell me, Aaron. But give me your honest take right now, just off the cuff. Good? Worth going to?
Yeah, it's fun as a band because it's chaotic. It's sort of like, you know, you wind up playing like 3 shows in a day and you're just like rushing from one to another, and it's like, it's hectic, but that's sort of like, it's a vibe.
That's what needs to happen in that time frame.
Yeah, I don't, to be honest, I've only been there in a performer capacity, so I don't know that I can really say exactly what it would be like just to go as an audience member. But I guess it'd be cool because, you know, a lot of bands do come down there, and I know that, like, you know, I know it gets some flack for kind of feeling messy, but I will say I went to a similar festival, played a similar festival that I will not name in England, that made South by like a really like well-oiled machine. But anyway, but the other thing is, like, a lot of industry people do go down there, and I think that's how we wound up sort of getting more on the radar of like a management company and a bigger booking agency, and Dead Oceans. And Dead Oceans is located in Bloomington, but they sort of, I would say they're not known for signing local acts. So
definitely not. Yeah, that's not I mean, obviously it's on the roster, but it's not widely known.
No, so we were kind of surprised when they expressed interest, and they said, we want to sign you guys to a three album deal, which for us, again, it's like we're like, dude, 3 out, like that's insane. Like we did this one for fun, like 3 albums just felt like a lifetime of a commitment. So then they were like, all right, well, how about 3 albums, but the first album we want to reissue your first one.
And you still go 2 fucking albums? Are you kidding me? Like, come on.
Well, honestly, my reaction to that was like, okay, but dude, but really, like a reissue? Like everybody who's interested in hearing this retro soul record like has heard it already. I just felt like the world was really small for that. And they were like, nah, like you're wrong. I think there's a big world out there of people who'd be excited to hear this. And they were absolutely right. Like, so when they reissued it, that's when our touring kicked into high gear. We wound up moving to a bigger booking agency, and the manager that we were working with also, I think, had a lot to do with our touring, because the band he was working with, the other band he was managing, was this like big reggae band, and they're not like hip. That's not what they go for. They don't care what Pitchfork has to say, and Pitchfork would never write about them. And it doesn't matter. And that is like so beautiful, that it's like they made their career by just grinding out a tour circuit. And now they play 15, 20,000, person amphitheaters on the regular. And I do feel like there was something that made a lot of sense to me when we started working at that management company. That was like, they're like, listen, do you want to try to find a lightning strike viral single, or do you want to build out a career and an organic fan base for yourself that isn't going to leave you when you're not the flavor of the week anymore, when you're not who these cultural gatekeepers, living in their like fancy apartments in Brooklyn have to say, don't think you're cool anymore. And that felt very exciting to me. I like, as somebody who loves folk music, as somebody who loves soul and just sort of like inclusion when it comes to music, like I don't want to have to rely on what some gatekeeper thinks about me or my band or our music.
Sure.
So,
they don't dictate your success. Your work should show for itself.
Yeah, and truthfully, it's like, look, I'm appreciative of anyone who stops by to take a listen and pays attention to what I'm doing. I really can't say that enough. Like, there's so much music out there that for anybody to focus on me, as a solo artist or as a band member, is so lucky, for anybody like you to hit me up, for
the pleasure is all mine, sir. I really do appreciate you coming on here. Thank you, seriously.
Yeah, man,
for coming on.
Yeah, like or like TV or whatever. It's just like, I don't know. It's rare.
All right, this ain't TV. I'm sorry. All right, I don't have any TV creds yet. Well, I'm working on the development deal. I got a thing going over there with CBS, so morning show kind of thing.
Yeah, let's get Robin. What's her name? Robin Robbins on the horn.
Well, I mean that's where you come in. This is the whole thing. I really didn't want to interview you. I just wanted to get her contact information. I know you guys are good friends. That's really why I'm tiptoeing around at this point.
We actually, so we played Good Morning America, but it was like a web segment called Robin Robbins Dressing Room Reveal.
Oh, I saw it. Yeah.
Played in. Oh, you did see it. I had fun. It was very cool to go in and see the sound stage and all that stuff. I don't know. I think Dressing Room Reveal is like a weird name for a segment.
It is. No, you're 100% correct on that. Yes.
Sort of, it's for something straightforward. It wasn't titillating. It wasn't there's very little titillation.
Yeah, that's no, but I mean, I love the performance. It was fantastic.
We always, honestly, I think we thrive in stripped down scenarios, no pun intended. But like, and actually that was sort of one of the things that changed the trajectory of like my career was, so we started touring really hard, and that included, because we had now had a label, the label person, like, the label people, like, they know people, there's a structure behind you now. And so we were able to get some like press stuff. And so when we were in New York, we got 3 press hits in one day. We did Relics magazine, like kind of classic rock publication. We did Nylon, and did Paste. And so we did pretty much the same session 3 times in a row, like stripped down. I used a shaker egg, guitar, mini amp, like whatever. And the Paste session that we did, for some reason, struck a nerve with people. And when they put it out, this one song that I had sung in those sessions, Is It Any Wonder, like blew up. And I don't know, it was really surreal watching it. We talked about like, specifically not wanting a viral, and I mean, not necessarily not wanting it, but not seeking out a viral moment, but like, it was one, like it got, I think it's now, I don't even know, 30 something million, views later. And thankfully somehow my name, because my name wasn't on that video, like, but somehow, whether it was on Facebook or some other platform or in the comments of YouTube, my name wound up getting associated with this performance that I was singing. And so people were like finding my social media, and it started to grow. I mean, I'd never intended to like really use Instagram, but now it's like kind of like my primary way of like reaching my audience beyond music. But yeah, man, I mean, it was just a lot of touring and some luck.
First of all, I know who spread the word about that, and it was your girl Robin. That's for sure. Just I just want to address the statement right there that it's your best friend. She put it out there. That's for one.
No, that's true. I should text her.
Yeah, you should. I mean, she's probably in the dressing room right now. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know.
Big possibility.
Yeah.
With those Paste sessions, especially because I know you guys did what, like 2 of them, correct? Like one in Austin as well.
That's true. Yeah, that was like a follow-up. So it was like after that blew up, and it's now become, the Isn't Any Wonder has become like their most viewed session. Yeah. And so, yeah, I guess a year later, when we went back to South by, they were posted up there. They had a little like house that they'd been renting, and we did another one in the backyard.
Yeah. Speaking of like the kind of stripped down, at least percussion side of things, was it your intention for that Austin kind of session there to use that cup? I mean, like that was such an original kind of idea for it. And for those who haven't seen it, I'll link it in the little description below this video. It's very interesting that you're using the little shaker with the cup. When did you have that idea? It's like this will go great with that.
You know what, that actually started, I feel like when we started doing more radio, like morning radio show type stuff, where I don't know, it just felt like a shaker. A shaker can give you the tempo, but I wanted something to kind of be a kick and a snare sound. And so I started just asking if there were like coffee mugs around or any kind of glass. And, if you hit the bottom of the glass, that's obviously it's going to be a thicker part. And so you get more of a thud. And then you hit the top or the middle part of the glass, and that's more of a ping. So if you do that while you're shaking, you get the 16th notes or 8th notes or whatever of the hi-hat plus the thud and ping, the sort of boom and bap of a kick and snare. It just came out of necessity, but I find it very useful.
No, I mean, it was, when I saw it, I was like, wow, I never even thought about that. And like, it's so interesting that the mic picked it up so well with everything else that was going on in that session. Is amazing. Amazing, Aaron. That's all I could describe it as.
Thanks, man.
I remember us talking to Robin about it, and she's like, "This is fantastic. Why didn't he bust out the cup in the dressing room?" I said, "I don't, I don't know. You got to take it up
That
with him. So
that's so Robin. That's so Robin.
it's so Robin. Um, was it was never your intention, like, okay, I'm gonna go out here, even with like the other sessions, even with, and I'm assuming the Nylon magazine one and the other one that you mentioned, you didn't intentionally like, okay, I'm just gonna do something different for the percussion, or was it like like I'm gonna try to kind of break the monotony up of this and kind of use like some just bare bones kind of stuff, but make it
Well,
sound like
yeah,
it's robust.
I guess like, even back in Indiana, before I was like all the way doing the indication stuff, I really loved the Tiny Desk concerts. And in that era, which is probably like, that's like 2009, 2013, they were different than they are now. I will say, the production value was lower in like a way that I find really cool. Like I felt like there was sort of an expectation that you didn't go on, because it was such a stripped down setting and not a music venue or a stage or whatever, that the expectation was like you go in and you freak it, like you do something different. And I love those performances. Like I loved hearing Dr. Dog do like a really weird stripped down version of their set, or Dan Auerbach, did a really cool. I'm just on and on of like Adele, like man, I don't know, just there are a whole bunch of cool stripped down ones. So and occasionally if there was one where people brought kind of like a whole set in and they were just doing their normal shows, sort of like, I don't know, it's kind of like, well, I can just listen to the record if I want to hear that. I think there's something special about doing arrangements that you couldn't find elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. Did you take that idea and put it on your own, the KEXP performance, with like, it's
Yeah,
kind of like different, it's kind of like a little spin on the songs that you do know, but it's performed a little bit differently?
dude, yes, exactly. Like I
Gotcha.
wanted to do something special, and also kind of honor the different parts that I feel like I don't get to like necessarily put on the one record. So, like when I was in Indiana, I learned how to play the banjo. So when I moved to New York, I was like playing the banjo a bunch. And yeah, I wound up kind of hanging out with a lot of folkies, in that folk band. And yeah, so that's where we shot it, actually, at the Jalopy Theater in Red Hook. And yeah, I don't know, man. I love all kinds of different music, and I just think that lines between genres are like really arbitrary. And I understand, as a fellow, record collector, like it's helpful to have like a genre, a box, literally like, or a shelf to like put something on. But as a creator and like as just a music fan, I don't know, just philosophically, I'm just like, the difference between country music and soul music is like pretty minimal to me in so many different regards. So anyway, yeah, I want to do something different for the KXP, and I love how that came out. I'm really happy. I hope everybody checks that out.
Oh yeah, that'll also be in the bottom of this video. Just, yeah, it was tremendous. Yeah, keep those gray areas gray in terms of genres for you. Yes.
Yeah, I just think like everything is connected, man. Like you can take two seemingly disparate songs and find a way to connect them through I don't know, just their kind of respective musical histories or personnel or approaches or vibes or whatever it is, like in very few degrees.
Sure.
And at the core
Um,
of the,
sorry,
like,
sorry, please, Aaron, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I just got so many. I'm just so flustered by you. I mean, this is the KEXP man himself on the podcast.
I was just gonna say, it's funny to me that polka is at the core of a lot of genres. As somebody who, I don't love polka, I think you can find polka DNA in a lot of different music. That's it. Yeah.
Sure. Um, Going back, I mean, like, we kind of touched on this a little bit, but is it any wonder? I mean, when you when you wrote that song, did you feel like, all right, this is gonna be super successful, or this is gonna go somewhere that I'm not expecting it to? It's gonna be something else, or were you like, it's just another song that I penned?
It wasn't like just another song that I penned, because it was a little different than the stuff I had been writing previously. But no, I mean, I had no clue, like truly, utterly no idea that it would connect with people the way it did. I was just, I was glad to take another crack at the track, since just the initial recording I wasn't as happy with. And I was happy and honored and grateful that we left my voice on it. Because at the time it's like, again, like nobody really saw me much as a singer. Um, and it was also like this recording project, even though it wasn't like hard and fast rules, it's like the idea was it was Durand singing, and we were writing with him and for him, and we were doing the production and the instrumental end. So I could totally, understand after that first record came out, and Is Any Wonder became a fan favorite, I could totally understand. Durand was like, that's really awesome, and I'm so like pumped for you, but like this is like my thing, and then I want you to have your own avenue. But he didn't. He totally welcomed, another voice, and I think that says a lot about him as a person and as a frontman and as a musician and a collaborator to do that. But when we realized we had two voices, it opened up a lot for us in terms of our creative growth and direction, and that's what I think kind of set the stage for what American Love Call, our second record, became. Because rather than a sort of solely frontman driven Southern soul late 60s vibe, we started to explore more of the sweet soul, lowrider soul, Chicano soul, whatever you want to call it, like vocal groups from the 70s. And yeah, I mean, there was just so much to learn from those records about arrangement. All of a sudden there's sort of orchestral stuff happening. Some of the chords are a little more complex. And we also were like, well, let's not just make a retro soul record. Let's try to put some components in there that you might not hear, that wouldn't be like period perfect. Like we did that intentionally.
I think you're an innovative guy, and I think it just doesn't stop at music. Let me just say that.
Thanks so much. I had an idea today for a bowl for dipping your chips into that sort of curls up at the end. Because like sometimes when it's just the walls of the bowl are straight or outward, you wind up with drippage around the side. So I feel like if it's curled in, then you can kind of like swipe it, you know what I'm saying? And it would kind of like up that slope, and it would wind up all on your chip. So, this is what I bring to the table. I got a lot. So
I feel like maybe music isn't your calling. It's just like coming up with new ideas and phrases and whatnot. Not so much in music, but the chip instance. Like this is gold stuff. I can't believe that you put it out on a podcast for free. That baffles my mind. I hope that you got the patent on that on the board.
Yeah, you should definitely cut that before I take it on Shark Tank. Actually,
yeah, it's gotta be. Yeah,
and you just shoot it back to me.
Yeah, I'll be like, hey, remember this? And you're like, yes. And that's what made you a multi-billionaire.
That's right.
I mean, it's good to talk to you before financial gain. It's, it's really nice.
Yeah. Otherwise,
that you take out some time.
It's no problem. It's no problem.
When you wrote that song, going back to Is Any Wonder, what was the inspiration for that? Was that kind of a relationship song, or was it kind of just about a bunch of different things that you kind of picked at and then kind of put all together into the song itself?
Yeah, truthfully, kind of more the latter. I think when it comes to lyrics, it's like you can tell a story or you can like paint a picture, and that's more of a picture song. It's like It's just like vibes, you know. As I've developed more as a lyricist, um, I feel like I can kind of, I've taken many other approaches. But at that time it was just exploratory, man. I was just sort of operating at a gut level. But I do think that over my songwriting career, the stuff that has come from an intuitive place has connected with people on an intuitive level. So, I definitely can be like an egghead with like lyric stuff because I like to nerd out about it. And I also, the the lyricists that I love also, are like Carole King, Smokey Robinson, Curtis Mayfield, Gil Scott Heron, like people I talk about all the time. Like, I mean, or like Jay-Z, or I don't know, people like that. Their lyrics are really meticulous, but sometimes it doesn't need that, man. So that one was just like vibes. I just wanted to create a feeling more than a specific narrative.
Wow. And look, I mean, to look at it now, does it just like you're like, wow, like this is really, I mean, it must be insane.
I marvel every day that anyone heard it at all. Like,
Is it any wonder, man? Whoa.
yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be. I mean, it's up on Pace. It's down below. Go take a listen to it after you're done with this podcast, if you haven't heard it already. And if you have heard it, go back and re-listen to it, because we're trying to really ramp up those numbers. Correct, Darren? We're really trying to get those numbers.
Yeah, we got to beat
Boosted.
two numbers. This is we're heading in Q3. We really want to boost our returns there. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the margins are almost set. We just need a little bit of support doing it.
Absolutely.
Where did the idea to title your debut album Introducing come from?
I think just like just because over the years, I mean, again, like thankfully a lot of people have found me through Durand Jones and the Indications, even though, I'm sort of behind the ampersand as an indication. And people have taken the time to like look that up, which is a miracle. But yeah, I just felt like it was, my first time putting out music under my own name rather than a pseudonym. Like in 2017, I put out a gospel single called My God Has a Telephone under the name The Flying Stars of Brooklyn, New York. And that was another one that like, I just recorded it in my apartment and the guitar amp was on top of the closed toilet lid, and like did it to a tape machine and put it on Spotify with like there's no PR behind it. That one was just like, Dead Oceans wasn't involved with that or anything. And it struck a nerve with people. I have my theories as to why, but like, yeah, that was another one that like just streamed. I think that one's also like 30 million something streams,
That one, and I'm sorry to cut you off there, but I just that you touched on it. That was only 145, right? It was just an A and B side. Now there's no full record with that release of that project.
That's correct. Yeah. At some point, I think I will do that, but not today. I don't think now is the time. It'll be another. But yeah, I mean, so Dan, Dan Auerbach, like from the Black Keys, like hit me up, which was amazing because part of how I learned how to sing was just when I got my driver's license and I could be by myself, like, and not be embarrassed to sing in front of people. Like I was singing to the Black Keys, like I was listening to Brothers and Thick Freakness and Chulahoma and yeah, whatever. All that whole discography is awesome to me. So he had heard the Paste session and he loves falsetto. And so he had hit me up and asked me if I wanted to do a record, which I was like, hell yeah. But I asked him, I was like, should I use a pseudonym, The Flying Stars? Like that was catching some heat on like the DSPs. So should I do that? And he was the one who was like, nah, you should put it out. This is an opportunity for you to introduce yourself to people as you and not under any kind of other name. So yeah, it's kind of how it felt, introducing.
How long were you singing on those songs before it was put on to record?
Man, yeah, it was definitely a long process. Like in a way, like the whole thing was a long process, but the recording and writing itself was very condensed. We wrote that record over the course of 5 days. And I had some, I had some lyrical phrases. Whenever I have a good phrase come to me, I write it down, or a couple chord progressions. But for the most part, the vast majority, we just came up with, just me and Dan, just like sitting at the kitchen table at the studio, with an acoustic guitar.
Pure,
So,
very pure, very Dan Auerbach kind of. If somebody asked me how do you think that he would work with you, I'd say he probably had a kitchen table, acoustic guitar. That sounds right up his alley.
yeah, I did write for that record. I wrote like a couple of the songs using a piano, which was much newer for me. Like I suck at piano, but I don't mind that because it means I don't have any conventions to like fall back on. Like with guitar as a folkie, I have my chords that I know and that I use a lot. But with piano, like with an instrument that you don't play as well or you don't know as well, it can lead you to like new conclusions and kind of break you out of your mold. But anyway, I mean, it probably took a year before it actually did, because the album we recorded it right at the beginning of 2020, like January 2020. And then the album didn't come out until January 8th, 2021.
Wow, man. But I mean, it came out, and that's what's really great. At least it didn't get like too like just let's just shelve it and put it out at a later date.
No, I mean, well, it got delayed a little bit, and then and then it got rescheduled to like the day after the like 2020 election, like it was like November, whatever. And I was like, man, this is not the, like, I can't be trying to roll out a record in the 3 months leading up to this insane election. So
Not ideal.
not ideal. And just like, at the time, honestly, the I don't know, it just felt like there were other conversations that were happening that just needed as much space as possible. And then anyway, so we pushed it to January, and then it was still, the news was still really chaotic and stressful. But I considered delaying it again, but I felt like, I was thinking about all those DMs and stuff that I was getting from people, messages that were talking about how the music has helped them through tough times. It was there for them, and I was like, what, actually, like, this is how I can do a little bit of good. And I'm not, I don't want to say like, oh yeah, like I put out music as like a public service. Like I'm not trying to say that, but like, there's a feeling of helplessness that for me at the beginning of the pandemic, especially with like just just the horrible shit, the just disturbing footage of police killing people, of killing Black men on the street, and women, and whatever. It's like, Curtis Mayfield is one of my heroes, and he's written so many amazing songs that feel so powerful to me. And in a way, when like seeing this stuff, I felt almost like, well, the songs didn't fix this. The fact that they still apply today means that things haven't changed enough. You kind of want a song like We People Who Are Darker Than Blue to feel outdated. That's the hope. But the fact that it sounded like could have been written, last week, it was just, it made me sad. I was like, well, damn, like maybe music can't really change anything. And I think that's sort of the conclusion I came to, was like, I don't think music can change anything directly, but it can kind of like fuel the people who can go out and put in the effort daily to make incremental change that can hopefully lead to like systemic change. So anyway, whatever. I just feel like people need some escapism, and so I put out some fucking love songs. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Right on. It was co-released through Dead Oceans and the Easy Eye Sound.
Yes.
Wow. When was that kind of, and this is really inside baseball for the listeners, but those who are interested like myself, I mean, this is for you. So like when did that kind of, I mean, it wasn't ideally like, all right, Dan is gonna like want to put it out through his as well, or was that the initial idea the whole time?
Yeah, so I mean, uh my contract was with Dead Oceans. But then when Dan approached me, he's put in a tremendous amount of time and care and effort into building out, the Easy Eye label. And so when he produces a record, he wants it to come out on Easy Eye. And so it was just a matter of talking to, Chris Swanson, like the head of Dead Oceans, and just being honest about being like, I really want to make this happen. And like, I'm thankful because I don't have label horror stories. You know what I'm saying? Like I was able to hit up Chris and I was like, dude, I want to make this happen. And he was like, let's figure it out. And they, hashed out the details, and we even were able to bring Coal Mine in to do the 45s. So to still keep a foot directly in with that like core fan base that I have, like, my people who love 7-inch records the same way I do.
Super important. And that's awesome that all three of them had a hand in projecting you into your debut album and kind of having a hand in it. That's really special. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Super cool. Do you usually write by yourself when you're working on your own stuff, or is it usually like you're kind of trying to bounce ideas off of some other people during that process?
I've done a lot of both at this point. I think both have pros and cons. I think I'm somebody just in general in life, I'm more of a collaborative person. But I don't know. There have been plenty of songs that I've written by myself that I'm really proud of. So yeah, I don't really have a preference, I guess.
Mm-hmm. No, it's good. I like it. Sneaky third option. I would like to hear the C. There's A and B is just right there, but it's C is always there as well, but nobody kind of sees it sometimes. You know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying. I think
I knew you would, Aaron. I knew you would. How often are you helping other people with their stuff? How often are you like kind of contributing to other people's stuff, as in like kind of arranging or even producing or whatever it might be?
Definitely more than I used to. It's something I really enjoy too, because I think like even though sort of like consciously I know that I can write whatever music I want, it's still like there's still some part of me that feels I'm like, oh well, if I wrote this song but it's not, that doesn't sound like something I would do. Like there's just a little bit of freedom when you step outside yourself. I think maybe it's just the amount of weight that you put on it if it's like it's not for you. And that's not to say that there's not the same amount of care. I just think that sometimes pressure is like can be a friend creatively, but it definitely can. But sometimes it's like if you just put too much weight on it, it's not gonna like come naturally. So anyway, yeah, I do a lot of writing for this gospel band called the Harlem Gospel Travelers. I co-produced a record that has yet to come out with this band 79.5, who are really sick. They sort of remind me of like ESG a little bit.
Okay, yeah. Do you often DJ? Is that like a thing that you do kind of regularly, or when you have time to do it?
Not regularly. I would say pretty infrequently, but I'm like an avid record collector, so it's fun to like get to kind of pop out and spin and not feel the pressure of like, oh, I have like 5 gigs this week and so I have to like change up this. I can just sort of like bring all my heaters and like do the thing. So it's really only when I'm called upon.
Gotcha. It is usually 45s. Is that your wheelhouse usually?
Yeah, it's all 45s actually. I stopped buying LPs a few years ago, mostly just because when you're touring, you're sharing all the room with people, and there's not really a lot of room for like LPs. It's easier just to bring a box and you fill it with 45s.
Sure. More compact.
Yeah, I mean, and like, yeah, it's so sick getting to just go around the country and like hit up the different record stores. Like I've seen a lot now in different countries and stuff. And in July, we're going to Tokyo for our first Tokyo performances. We're doing 2 nights at the Blue Note out there. And I'm excited to play, and I'm excited to eat the food and all this stuff, but I'm also extra excited about the records out there.
I mean, I've heard there's a lot of good stuff out there. I've heard it from a lot of different people.
Yeah, the culture of collecting in Japan is like really intense and like high level. So yeah, it should be cool.
Maybe the goat will be out there, maybe just there's a baby goat will be out there. You can go hold it, take a picture with it, kind of check that one off the list.
If there's one thing I know about Tokyo, and there's not, it's that there's a lot of goats.
Yeah,
I think
that's just that's
goats.
common knowledge. It's just general, thinking. It's like Tokyo. Oh yeah, where the goats are.
Goats
Yeah,
are.
of course. It's the first thing that comes to my mind, at least.
No, absolutely.
Aaron, it's been an absolute pleasure having you come on here, and I'm so glad that we were able to make this happen with scheduling and stuff. I really do appreciate you coming on here, man.
Oh, it's been a lot of fun, Jacob. Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you. But I do like to wrap it up with some promos. So Durand Jones and the Indications, music streaming everywhere, wherever you get your music, that's where you can find it. Great stuff on YouTube, like we were kind of talking about before. Dates and merch can be found at their website, durandjonesindications.com. Is that the best place, Aaron?
That's the best place. Yes.
All right, and follow them on Instagram, of course. I mean, that's where you can stay up to date with all that good stuff. And Aaron's music as well is on all streaming platforms, correct?
Yeah, all of them.
All right, awesome. You can stay up to date with like shows. You can find the great merch. That's at AaronFrazerMusic.com, right?
That's correct.
And as we were talking about before, Instagram also to keep up to date with everything else. And that's just at Aaron Frazer, no underscore.
Oh, there actually is an underscore.
Oh, there is an underscore?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you got to change it then, man. I can't.
Okay.
There's no way I can correct myself.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fair is fair. That's underscore Frazer. And introducing is, yeah. Let me screw that up too, Aaron. You see what you did? You stopped being mid tracks, and then now I'm screwing everything up.
All right.
This is to your detriment, man. Introducing is out via Dead Oceans and Easy Eye Sound, and you could find it at coalminerecords.com. Correct? That's the best place.
Yeah, that's great.
Awesome. And am I missing anything?
No, it just, if you know Jewel, just get at me. That's it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, well, she listens, so it's fine. All right, Aaron, I'm gonna stop recording this. I'll talk to you in a minute. All right.
Okay, man.
All right. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Yep.